How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to Rangers Rundown. In today's video, we're going to go over Game 2 of the play-in series matchup between the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Jesper Fast was not available for Game 2 as he is still injured from Game 1. Now, Fast is one of my favorite Rangers. He's a Swedish Army knife. David Quid could put him on any line and the Rangers would be fine, so he will be missed. Steven Fogarty would be the forward to be called up into the lineup, but it would be Kakko to take over Fast's top six role on the team, which I think is great. Kakko has shown in both the exhibition game and Game 1 that he's ready for some more responsibility on this team. Lundqvist got the call again for Game 2 because Shesterkin is still unfit to play. Now, Lundqvist wasn't the reason they lost Game 1, so I'm sure there was no one on the team uncomfortable with him being in the crease again. Lemieux's suspension is officially finished with the conclusion of this game, and Dougie Hamilton did not play in this Game 2 for the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes went 7 for 7 on the penalty kill during Game 1, so special teams are going to be very important for the Rangers in Game 2. I'd also like to see a little bit more from Panarin, who only had one secondary assist during Game 1. And as always, here's the trivia question from the game. This is the first meeting of the Rangers and the Hurricanes in the postseason. Which Eastern Conference team have the Rangers never faced in the playoffs? I'll reveal the answer to that question at the end of the video. But let's hop into the first period. 16 seconds in, Buchnevich takes a cross-checking penalty against Stahl. Now, Fogarty would see some time on this first penalty kill, as that is his specialty. At 2:58, we would see a huge save from Lundqvist on a 2-on-1 from McGinn. But at 4:32, we would see Svechnikov's first goal of the game from Aho and Vatanen. He snuck it right under the arm of Lundqvist. At 8:12, Howden would have a huge chance off of a behind-the-net feed from Di Giuseppe, but Mrazek would say no. At this point in the game, the Rangers' forecheck is looking much better. They're getting more chances, they're putting on more offensive pressure, and they're finding ways to crack through that neutral zone. At 10 minutes and 11 seconds, Fleury would take an interference penalty on Di Giuseppe, and at 10 minutes 49 seconds, Aho would take a slashing penalty on Zibanejad, putting the Rangers in a 5-on-3 power play for 1 minute and 22 seconds. At 12:05, Panarin would score a 5-on-3 power play goal from Strome and DeAngelo, evening up the score 1-1. At 15:49, Martinook would take a tripping penalty against Chytil, and during that Rangers power play, Lundqvist would save a pretty good shorthanded chance by Carolina. At 17:28, Kakko had a great chance on the power play, so his game is still strong. At 18:43, there was a bad giveaway in the offensive zone, but Lundqvist saved the day on a shot from Geekie. With less than 2 seconds left, Lindgren slowed the play down with the puck in anticipation of the end of the period, but Aho came over and gave him a bigger hit than was necessarily warranted, and that caused a bit of a scrum at the end of the first period. The Rangers are playing much better in this game than they did in Game 1. Carolina's having a hard time setting up in the offensive zone, the Rangers are having an easier time getting through the neutral zone, and they're not playing catch-up on the scoreboard. The Rangers were leading in almost all categories by the end of this first period. They were leading in shots 7-6. They were winning face-offs 55.6% of the time. They were leading in hits 15-9 and blocks 4-2. New York's power play went 1 for 3 and Carolina's went 0 for 1. 1 minute and 8 seconds into the second period, Smith would take a high sticking penalty against Aho. And 3 seconds later, Svechnikov would score his second goal of the game on the power play from Vatanen and Aho, the same 3 players that were involved in their first goal. And then at 2 minutes and 22 seconds, Martinook would score from Geekie and McGinn after a bad clearing attempt by the Rangers in their own zone. After this goal, David Quinn calls a timeout for obvious reasons. And then honestly, most of the rest of this period was pretty even between the teams. Mrazek and Lundqvist were playing really well. Both teams had their offensive moments and defensive moments. There weren't any penalties or big hits or breakaways. It was just hockey. But then at 17-10, Chytil had a great shot on a partial breakaway, but Mrazek would fight it off. And then about a minute later, Smith would have a great chance, but he would shoot it high. And then at the end of the second period, Martinook and Buchnevich would take offsetting roughing penalties as another scrum would ensue. You could tell these teams were not really enjoying each other's company. Aside from the first couple minutes of the game, there was very little space for either team to do anything. Both teams could get into the other offensive zone, but there was very little time and space to set up a play. It was a lot of on-the-fly passes and shots. The biggest thought in my head between periods 2 and 3 was that the next goal was going to be the most important one of the game. If Carolina scores and makes it 4-1, then the Rangers would have little to no chance of bouncing back. But if the Rangers could score and make it 3-2 and swing some of that momentum back into their favor, then they could more easily mount that comeback. At this point, Carolina was leading in shots 18-17. They were winning the majority of faceoffs with 59%, and they were leading in blocks 8-7. The Rangers were leading in hits 29-23. Their power play went 1 for 4 so far, and Carolina's was going 1 for 3. The third period would start with a 4-on-4 because of the offsetting roughing penalties from the end of the second period. At 4:24, Williams would take an interference penalty against Zibanejad, but the power play would be unsuccessful. Similar to period 2, a lot of even hockey being played with no obvious slant towards either team. At 12:56, Lundqvist made a good save on Foegele, and about 40 seconds later, he would make another good save on Edmundson. But at 14:02, Svechnikov would score his hat-trick goal from Aho, and that would be the final nail in the coffin for the Rangers. At 14:16, DeAngelo and Martinook took offsetting roughing penalties against each other, but DeAngelo also got a 10-minute misconduct. At 15:57, Chytil had another partial breakaway but missed the net. At 17:10, a shot squeaked through Mrazek but was cleared out of the crease. And at 17:50, Buchnevich would have a pretty good look, but couldn't get it by Mrazek. And then at 18:39, Kreider would take a roughing penalty against Vatanen, and that would be it for the Rangers in Game 2. Carolina led in shots for the game 34-24, blocks 13-11, and they won 53.6% of the faceoffs. The Rangers led in hits 37-33, and both power plays went 1 for 4. The Rangers will now have to win the next 3 games in a row to escape this play-in round and get to the first round of the playoffs. But with the way Carolina's been playing, I don't see how that's possible. The Rangers haven't led yet in this series. This was a disappointing loss. In a very humbling couple days of hockey, let's go over how wrong my play-in predictions have been so far. The Blackhawks, Canadiens, Flames, Coyotes, Wild, and Hurricanes all won their respective Game 1s of the series. The only 2 series I've gotten right so far are the Blue Jackets and the Islanders. Now I know there's plenty of play-in left, so we'll see if any of my predictions come to fruition. But now let's find out who got the trivia question right. Who is the only Eastern Conference team the Rangers have not played in the playoffs? The Columbus Blue Jackets. Game 3, and possibly the final game in the series, will happen tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, winning the series is a long shot, but I'm just hoping the Rangers don't get swept. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next rundown.